is all coming? I know that Lisa's coming from kind of outside of New Haven. Anyone else coming outside of the district? Because you've stopped working with the district.
No, we only have us, yeah.
All right.
I had to do that.
Get started. I think we're good. If any of you saw the pictures of my little girls up there, that is my overshare for the day. All right. So today, digital citizenship. And okay, podiums aren't my friend. I try not to stand behind podiums, so I'm going to do my best to try and do my whole walk around thing. One last thing. This guy in. Don't you love how sometimes technology is either working or we forget something? But really, when it comes down to in the classroom, it's about how you react to it, not the fact that it went down. So that's my one educator to educator thing I'll give, besides the keynote. All right, so digital citizenship today. What I want to focus on is not just digital citizenship, but really how we create a whole community approach to digital citizenship. It's not just about, we need to teach these things in our classroom, right? That's part of it, but there's a lot more to it. It starts to look at parents, us as educators, our roles, how our students are learning from it or reacting to it, okay? So again, who am I? So I am Merve Lapus. I'm the Director of Professional Services for Common Sense Education. I am giving you permission to share my image, share anything I share today. Those are my handles, feel free. I believe that is the correct hashtag for today, so feel free to follow. I have set up tweets that are gonna fire on their own already, so you can retweet those if you want. Really, I wanna make sure that as I have this discussion with you all today, that we recognize that being an educator is not just about finding good resources. A lot of it is about curating, sharing, and creating our own. And I expect that you all will take something out of this and start to create your own for your own needs in your classroom. So I'm going to start off with that. But my founding question for today, as the New Haven Unified School District and others continue to innovate teacher practice, how do we ensure that students and our school community are thinking critically, behaving safely, and participating responsibly using media and technology? Right? It's a big loaded question. How do we do that, Merv? All right. So those are some things I want to talk about today. How many of you all have heard of Common Sense before me coming here today? A lot of hands. Awesome. For those of you that haven't, let me give you kind of a 30,000-foot look at who we are. So we are a national nonprofit, whole focus dedicated to improving the lives of kids and families by providing trustworthy information, education, and an independent voice when it comes to navigating this ever-changing world of media and technology. Right? And we do that in 3 core ways. We rate, educate, and advocate. So when we think about whole community approach, even our organization is structured around a whole community. On the rating side, we're looking at how do we provide enough information so parents are making more educated decisions around the type of music, video games, TV shows, websites, apps, books that our kids are reading. Because there's a lot of developmental milestones we want to make sure are being addressed in the type of media they're watching, and a lot of times parents aren't in the know of what is 13 Reasons Why. A lot of them are now, and like, how do I turn this into a teaching moment, right? So you can find a lot of the information on our rating side. It's Common Sense Media. On the Common Sense Education side, which is where I spend most of my days, is really focused on how do we provide the tools needed in classrooms, especially classrooms using technology, or recognizing that technology exists in the lives of their kids, so that they can explore the world using media technology respectfully and responsibly, but more importantly for me, effectively. Because technology shouldn't be used just because it's there, it should have a purpose. It is a tool, right? And then we have the advocacy side, which is Common Sense Kids Action, which really then looks at policy. How many of you are tasked with this idea of making sure that any tools you're using in your classroom, that we are thinking about our student data and our privacy with any tool that we're using in our classroom? How many hands? Anyone know that that is one of your primary roles? All right, reality is that is all of our roles. As educators, we need to know that we are kind of the first line around it. Anyone that's in charge of assessing these things in our schools, it's more of a direct need, but then as districts especially, and parents, we need to know what is happening with our information, and are we making sure that these tools are effectively teaching our kids, effectively supporting us as teachers, and also making sure that they're being responsible themselves. So that's kind of the broad brush of what we do as an organization. So now to get down to the core of what I want to discuss today, really our students and the effects on our students. First thing we need to know is really what is the landscape? What is happening right now? In order to know what's happening now, we need to know kind of where we came from. So I'm just gonna rewind 2 years ago. So the 2014-2015 school year, This was something that was put out around every minute of the day. So how many of you guys ever use Amazon to order things? Yeah? So Amazon, they made $83,000 every minute of the day. This is back in 2014, 2015. Okay? How many of you guys want to make $83,000 every minute of the day? Totally. YouTube, how many of you guys use YouTube? Yeah, whether you use it personally or you use it in schools, 72 hours of video uploaded every minute of the day, right? 72 hours every minute. It's a lot of time. Again, 2014, okay? Tinder, how many of you guys use Tinder? No. How many of you guys know Tinder? I saw some hands. Whoa, wait, I don't want to put myself out there. It's cool, get it? Life would have been different for me in college. I bring it up because, again, I want to show you 2 years ago, right? We're looking at 46,000 swipes, right? Or 416,000. I was off by 100,000. 416,000 swipes every minute of the day, okay? Fast forward to now. This is the 2016-2017. Amazon, they are now making $222,000 every minute of the day. There's a lot of ordering going on. I still use it. I'm a Prime member. 2 days, I get everything I need. Done. I send it to work, though, because people steal packages, unfortunately, at my doorstep. That is not cool. YouTube has gone from 72 hours to 400 hours of video uploaded every minute of the day. My first thought is, wow, that's a lot of video. My second thought is, video is really changing the world in the way that our kids can create and share their views. Some of them might be inappropriate. Others are kind of amazing, right? And this is not just students, obviously. This is the broad use of media technology across the world. This is 7+ billion people. This reflects about 3.75 billion of them that actively have access, okay? And then Tinder, we see that number go from 400,000 to now double that, more than double. So how many of you knew that, so we all know what Tinder is, right? Yes, kind of hot or not, it's a dating app. It pulls up who's around you and you can swipe left if you don't think you match, swipe right if you do match, and then it connects you directly to a text stream. So you can start having conversations with them, to someone down the street, type of thing. So I only bring it up because last year 2 things happened in succession. And so for me, it's like, it just sticks in my head. So I went to we had a weekend party. I put 2 little girls. And so Saturday was family party. So we went, it's family party, and it was me hanging out with, our friends. And the kids were off in one area, and then I was hanging out with the guys. A lot of my guy friends aren't married, no kids yet. So they're doing the dating thing, and they're on Tinder. So I was like, I want to see what this is all about. Let's go on. And so we were swiping, and we were joking, and I knew what was going on, but at the same time, I was like, this is so interesting, the psyche of my boys, right? I'm like, it's cool, because that was me some time ago. I get it. So that was that day. And then the next day was a kids' party, right? And so I was just kind of hanging out, listening, and these are middle school kids that were, of family. So we went, the kids were playing, and then I was hanging around the middle school kids. I just want to know what was going on. I like to feel connected. And they were talking about Tinder too. And I was like, what the? Why are they talking about Tinder? And so they may not be using it, but they know what it is. And then a month later, Tinder released, we are actually going to start deleting any accounts from minors, which means 3 years going, they've had accounts of minors on there that they knew about and they let them stay, right? Here's the kicker. As of like a month or 2 ago, there's a new app called Yellow, which is essentially Tinder for kids. It's for kids to connect and meet each other. What does that turn into? Potentially, if kids aren't ready for this kind of connection. It's based on on geolocation. Where are you located around, right? So, okay, I purposely start with the like, what? Oh my gosh, because I need you to know that this is all real, right? But these are incredible opportunities to learn and really dive deep into how our kids think, why they do what they do. If we don't take those learning opportunities, it's a big missed opportunity, right? So I purposely start off this way. It's just, relax. We're gonna start breathing soon. So this is global, this is what's happening, okay? Here's the reality, that's the reality. So now let's bring it down to this room. Let's bring it down to you. If you are going to address digital citizenship in your classrooms or in your schools, you need to know what it means to you before you can start talking to your kids about these things. So I'm gonna lead you through an activity. Anyone here know what a simile is?
Yes.
Anyone want to give me a quick definition? I singled you out for this room, yeah. Very good, textbook definition. Comparing 2 things using like or as. I want you all, this is going to be a parent share. Well, you're in small groups, so you can actually just do this in small group form. I'm going to give you some time to think about it, and then I expect you to share. I want you to think about what your digital life is like to you. Okay, here are some examples to get you started. This is coming, excuse me, that coffee got to me this morning. This is coming from a 6th grade student. My digital life is like the leaky faucet. Even though I turn it off, something still seems to always squeak out, right? Deep. This is coming from a superintendent, so an administrator. My digital life is like a crazy ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. No matter how much I try to get away from them, they always seem to find me. I immediately thought, we need to hang out at lunch because I need to know more about them. This is coming from a classroom teacher. My digital life is like the cheese counter at Whole Foods. What tastes good for me or smells good to me may not be the same for everyone. Okay? Your job now, take a second, tweet it out, write it down, think of it. What does your digital life mean to you? And I want you to share it with your table. I'm going to give you all 3 minutes for that entire process. Okay?
So, funny story. What was that symposium?
I got a question. Do I need to make it a simile? Yes. Because one of the purposes of this is to show you how you can embed this into your instruction.
I promised me that I tweet. So I get do this, and the autocorrect is messing me up, and I'm fixing it constantly. And it takes me like 2 minutes to tweet one sentence. You guys were laughing at me. It took me 2 minutes to get that tweet out.
Yeah, that's probably because you're so anal retentive. You have to double check and look at every single thing, and then you have to wordsmith for 5 minutes. I know how you are.
Oh no, it was just typing it out and figuring out how to keep it under 140.
Or 140.
It doesn't matter.
It was painful.
Yeah.
Yes. So we told him he couldn't be social media for Q.
You can't be that. Okay.
They're like, never do that again.
Still giving you a look.
So I told him, I said, I own my dinosaur. Does he know?
He said, ask Google. I'm going to tell him, oh, it's blocked here.
You've got 2 minutes left.
Tell him you're trying to register for the account, but it's blocked for some reason.
I had no idea what Tinder was.
But you've heard that phrase, swipe left, swipe right. Oh, really? It's a thing people say. I'm swiping him left or right or whatever, yeah.
Really?
It's a thing, yeah.
So is it good to be swiped
I
a
forget
certain
which
way?
way is the right way.
Which way do you have to swipe?
Lefty.
Left?
Left if you're not, right? Because if it's like, yeah, that's
Oh,
If
that's
you're
the way I remember
right-handed.
it. Okay.
I should have made that a GIF right there.
You know a little too much about this Merve. Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa.
well, I just posted a pano for you if you want to. Part of why I do this is to give me a break so I can capture things.
I really want to take. I have my camera over there. I want to try to take pictures.
One more minute. Make sure you at least attempt to have everyone share. I will be calling on at least 1 or 2 volunteers.
I am?
I said, oh, okay.
I hear plenty more people asking.
All right, class, let's bring our attention back to the stage. Do I need to clap once? Do I need to throw the single finger, 2 fingers? No? We're good? 3 fingers? Whatever it's gonna take? All right. Or I can just use my boisterous voice to get everyone back upstage. All right, everyone. So I'm going to need at least 2 folks to share. Over there.
My media life is like a commercial because I see it once and then I ignore it.
My media life is like a commercial because I see it once and then I ignore it. Totally. Or I just record everything and fast forward. Oh, voluntold. I'm good with voluntold. Totally. Relevant. My digital life is like a toilet. I only need to use it when I have to. All right. Oh, we have one more voluntold. Here we go.
My digital life is like being a hoarder without the physical clutter.
My digital life is like being a hoarder without the physical clutter.
I have way too many pins.
Way too many pins. I can feel that. That works great. All right, so how many of you guys, how many can see you using, like if you're an English teacher and you're teaching this concept of similes, how easy would this be to just build into a lesson? And say, you know what, as a topic, we'll use your digital life. How many of you guys are English teachers? How many of you guys can see you easily using this for that concept, right? It's using the ideas of digital citizenship, not having to teach a full lesson necessarily, right? Part of this conference is around personalization, right? So if you are using technology and you say you want to take this kind of to the next level, here's an idea. The same 6th grade class, what they did was the educator had the students then create an animoto, so an animation, using their digital lives. They then took those animations, created QR codes to the links on Animoto, and then on back to school night or their parent night, posted their statement along with the code. The purpose was 2 things. 1, they wanted parents to be able to walk away with something their kids created. 2, they wanted to showcase to parents, well, actually 3 things. 1, how much media and technology played a role in the lives of their kids. And then 3, this is what we're doing with technology in our classroom. We're not just playing games, we're actively using them, and one of my objectives was to get kids to create. And I got a lot of insight during this creativity process, right? So really being able to understand your purpose, you can start building these types of ideas into your instruction. All right, so now let's get down to the students. Why are we even having this conversation? I got a clicker for a reason. Here we go. Students in today's technology landscape, we know that students are increasingly getting access to media and technology in their lives, whether they're getting it at home or in our schools. Many of your schools might be going one-to-one, or at least have Chromebooks for testing and are now trying to use them for other things, or iPads, whatever it is, right? But they are getting more and more access. We know that we're using technology because there's incredible promise. There's incredible opportunity in our classrooms for using technology. That's why we're bringing them in, right? It's not just because it's shiny and pretty. They are shiny and pretty, but there's a purpose that we should be bringing them into our classrooms. But the reality is a lot of kids, and even adults, don't understand the long-term ethical consequences of the decisions they make using media and technology. Our technology is meant to be fast-paced, to be immediate, to be quick. And so our reactions become fast-paced, immediate, and quick. We're not stopping to ask the who, the where, the what, the why, or the how of everything we do online. That includes adults, okay? How many hours per week do you think the average American child between 8 to 18 spends with media and technology? This does not include homework, so no homework here. It also does not include talking on the phone. If you see kids talking on the phone, Snapchat that. Like, that rarely happens. They're usually down here, right? So on average, so just raise of hands. You know, for the sake of time, I'm not doing an interactive poll or anything like that. Raise of hands. How many of you guys think on average teens are spending 35 hours a week? 45 hours a week? A few more hands. 63 hours a week. 77 hours a week. So we're kind of in that 63, 77 in this room. The answer is 63 hours a week. That is 9 hours a day. That is full-time job plus overtime, right? With no benefits and no pay. Who wants that job? How many educators feel like you have that job? I did too. So how do they do that? How do they fill in that time, right? When you think about tweens, which I don't like the term, but that's what they call them, tweens, 8 to 12, they're spending on average about 6 hours a day. And then when you go to 13 to 18, they're spending about that 9 hours a day, right? And what are they spending their time on? I'll discuss more of that in my next session. Plug, right? What % of teens see social media as an integral part of their daily use? I must wake up and spend time on my social media. Okay, so there is a difference here that I want to put out there first, so you can kind of think a little critically about this. They wake up saying, I need to spend time on social, versus, I got pinged on social, so I'm going to check it out. Those are two different things. Okay? When kids feel like, I need to be on social every day, that's 1%. When kids say, I'm getting pinged, so I just want to check it out, that's a different thing. Okay? So I'm talking about those kids that feel like they need to be on it every day. Again, raise of hands. How many of you guys think 45% of teens? 87%? 30%? And 60%. The answer is 45%. Okay? And only 36% say that they like it a lot. So the reality is, more than 80% of kids have access to social media. Like, they're on it. Doesn't mean they're on it every day. They might be on it every day, just kind of perusing through, but not necessarily actively building information into that social media post. They might like a thing here or there, but they don't wake up thinking, I must use social media. They all have access to it, though. It's where their friends are, right? It's where people are. It's where their favorite stars are. It's the quickest way to connect to a Kardashian, right? 73% of teens enjoy listening to music a lot, and 45% watching TV. So when we think about what do teens actually really enjoy doing every day, listening to music and watching television. Traditional media is still the primary medium for kids. So when we talk about social media and all of these issues and challenges, when things go wrong, they go wrong big time. They go viral, they go fast. But what is informing the way our kids use media and technology? Typically, it's going to be the traditional media they engage in. The music that they listen to. My kids love Bruno Mars. There is a song that is on the radio all the time. That's what I like. The lyrics are not appropriate for my girls. And when there's a part that says, like, sex by the fire tonight, and I have to scream out loud, sit by the, like, I need to change the lyrics, right? Because it's not appropriate for my kids, but they love the music. My kids love to dance, right? So there's a lot of music, there's a lot of TV shows and YouTube videos that are informing the way our kids think about life. And if we're not addressing those things because we're too focused on the social side, this is informing the way they use social, potentially. Right? So we all have an active role to really discuss these things as they come up. So this is an old figure, but there's a purpose behind it, and I'll share why in a minute. But of the 20 million? Of the 20 million minors who actively use Facebook in 2011, seems like a lifetime ago, right? 2011, how many were on there illegally? Remember, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act states that anyone under 13 should not be on social media because these tools are actively selling personal information. They're on there, we know it. But back in 2011, when Facebook was like the top dog and still growing, how many of those users were under 13? Okay, raise of hands. How many of you guys think A, 100,000? B, 3 million? C, 5 million? And then D, 8 million. So the answer is 8 million. Research also showed, so this is back when they actually reported these things. The Associated Press reported this, and then Dana Boyd did some additional research around it. They don't release these figures anymore, obviously, right? However, they show that with 5 million of the 8 million were actually under the age of 10. And the research also showed that they got on with the help of a loved one, a family member, a parent, a brother, a sister, a friend. Because what do you need to get onto any of these platforms? Email address and date of birth. And what happens when you put in the wrong date of birth? You just change the year. That is it, right? Way back when the internet was avocado, you'd have to put like credit card verification. And that's just for basic entry into these things. So this was 2011. Snapchat didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist. Kick Messenger didn't exist. These things did not exist. But we already know even back then, if kids are on this platform, there might be behaviors or information that they're not ready for that I should be addressing as a parent. My point is this. As a parent or an educator, technology is going to continue to grow and innovate, and I'll address this later on in the presentation. But when it comes down to the behavior and the decision making, that's something that's evergreen. And so to address the behaviors and the decision making and the critical thinking of those ideas, that's where we need to put our focus. Because there'll always be a new Snapchat, there'll always be a new Kick Messenger, there'll always be a new Yellow app. Again, Yellow is the new Tinder for kids, okay? So let's just think about the reality. So oftentimes we use social and we use media and technology, and we use that as a scapegoat to these things that are actually developmentally appropriate. How many of you guys did something completely stupid as a kid? How many of you guys did this, right? I did a lot of stupid things as a kid. We are wired to explore and do things like that as a kid. I watched Christmas Story, they stuck their tongue to the pole, I stuck my tongue to the pole, right? No one took a picture of it though, no one did a video thread of it, no one put a filter and made it look all shiny and faded on the edges, right? That didn't happen, but the behavior happened, okay? We think about independence and identity. I wanted to become independent. I didn't always want to be Ben and Aurora's son. I wanted to try out new things. I was into breakdancing and hip hop. My parents thought I was going to go to jail because of that. That didn't happen, thankfully. But I tried on different hats. And our kids are going to continue to try on different hats. Now, there's many different hats they can try online now because there's so many new avenues and access, but the act and the behavior of doing that is developmentally appropriate, okay? This idea of sexuality and relationships, I didn't just wake up thinking, well, if you're biologically, the pituitary, once that kind of pops, all of a sudden your friends become friends, right? Just because they're on social media doesn't necessarily mean that that is the reason why all of a sudden friends want to become friends, right? That's a biological thing. However, because of the way that things are being shown on the traditional media as well as in social, it starts to normalize the way that relationships are looked at. The sexuality that kids engage in, or the type of behavior that they engage in, start to get normalized in the media and the technology we watch, or in the social media that we engage in. So when we think about relationships and sexuality, or sex in general, we start to define them based on what we're used to seeing. And so if we don't demystify the myth or the fiction that we get through the media, then that is how kids will define, this is what it means to see women, this is what it means to see men, this is what it means to be a sexually active 7th grader, right? Depending on the shows they watch. And that's the reality. These are tough conversations to have, I understand that. Peer validation has also not changed. I wanted to be liked. I had about 28, 30 kids in my class. I just wanted to be liked by them, right? Validation has changed so much now, though. It's about having thousands of followers, thousands of friends, right? How many kids are even in your school? You've got times 100 of that on your social networks. How many of you have ever heard of the Century Club? It's this idea that when you post something, you must get at least 100 likes or 100 shares. And if you don't get that, it is not worth your time. So many kids start scrubbing their profiles. And adults too, because everyone wants to be Insta famous now, right? One of the ways to do that is make it look like your footprint is the place to be. So what they're doing is they're scrubbing anything that doesn't have 100 likes or 100 shares. That way when you go to their platform or you go to their page, it looks like everything they post is like on fleek, like on point, like it is the thing, right? So many people have shared it, so many people have liked it, okay? And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, good for them. They're scrubbing their site, they're thinking about their digital footprint, but the purpose was because they wanted to become YouTube famous or Insta famous or whatever that might be. Famous, right? And then we think about, are they even wired to think this way? To think about the long-term ethical consequences? Think about what I do today, how will this affect me a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? The reality is they're not wired to think that way yet. Where does all that thinking, that cognitive thinking in regards to social norms and needs and then long-term ethical consequence, where does that happen in your brain? Anyone know? Biology? I saw people pointing to the front. Yes, so prefrontal cortex. What is the last thing to develop in your brain? Prefrontal cortex. For most women, it's typically between 18 to 23. For most men, we're looking like 23 to 28. For most politicians, we're thinking 60 to 75. They're not thinking about how will this affect me later. They're just doing it now, right? We need to stop and think about what we're doing because we can potentially build positive footprints, right? Most of us, or most folks, then get trapped because the world is different. Things are far more replicable. It replicates fast. The scale is vast. It's huge. It's not just hundreds, it's thousands and millions, right? It's far more interactive. We're not just consuming, we're actively creating and collaborating, which in educational terms is a good thing, but in other terms online can be misused. Everything's far more mobile. which is great in the sense that you can find information anytime and anywhere, which is bad because you just can't get away from it, right? Anonymity has even changed. When they first invented the internet, or actually the connection into internet, one of the biggest fears was stranger danger. And that is still a relevant fear, this idea of grooming and someone on the other end, you know, is trying to get connected with someone younger on the other end. And that does happen, right? The percentages of that happening is actually greater for like seniors trying to groom freshmen, right? It's easier to do it online than it is to do in person, right? So those are things we should be thinking about as well. But the thing that's more pervasive is this idea of a disinhibition effect. Even though you have a screen name, even and where you feel like, oh, I'm completely anonymous, like some sites allow you to be, when you're behind a screen, you can be bolder, you can be meaner, you can be sexier, you can be more dramatic, because you don't have to deal with the in-person consequences of reaction or emotion, right? Getting kids and even adults to understand empathy when you're not in front of someone, that can be a hard thing for them to grasp unless it's a continued perspective that we share with them. Because these things are persistent. They're not going away. They will be there. It's searchable. Anyone ever hear of the Wayback Machine? Yeah, so I'll give you an example. There was a New York Times article that we linked to in one of our lessons that looks at avatars and how individuals have addressed themselves as avatars. The Times Magazine, they no longer have that post going. But if you go onto the Wayback Machine and put in the link, and then you'll see the activity across the past 20 years of when that link was active, you click on that year, and then all of a sudden the link is back. You get to see the internet 10 years ago. So things that you've tried to get rid of, I could easily find it if I just go to something like the Wayback Machine and look at the internet. Literally, they boxed the internet into a server at that time. So this information will exist. It will be persistent. It is our jobs to really think about how we use that to our advantage, okay? Because they're creating these digital footprints, and those footprints are those, signatures in the sand. How many of you guys have how many of you guys have heard of what just happened at Harvard? Right? 10 kids had their applications rescinded from Harvard because of posting around hate speech, putting some racial epithets on a page that was actually created by Harvard, meant to get their underclassmen connected, right? And then they created a subgroup within the same network that was posting all this hate speech. And they now, even though they got in, will now no longer be going to Harvard. I imagine nowhere else, potentially, right? So there is an opportunity here, okay? We need to teach our kids to swim. We need to teach them to navigate. But how do we do that if we don't let them in the water? We need to get them in there, but we need to guide them through this, okay? Other reasons why? This is coming from Linda Darling-Hammond, researcher, educator from Stanford. Also one of kind of the leading heads around how ed tech is used, not just in California, but nationally. Schools must prepare students for jobs that do not yet exist, creating ideas and solutions for products and problems that have not been identified, and using technologies that have not yet been invented. That is reality. I'm doing a job right now with Common Sense that didn't exist 10 years ago, right? They're going to be doing jobs around coding and creation, or anything that do not exist today. So what fundamentals can we provide them so that they can be successful? Digital citizenship is actually one of those fundamentals, and we'll look at how that relates, because when we look at this big grandstanding topic, the diffusion of innovation model, all this really means is that there's kind of a curve to applying innovation in our schools, in our work. Most folks are starting to do it. A lot of folks are kind of interacting with it. Some folks are the leaders. Here's what that really kind of looks like in just kind of basic terms. Folks are either experimenting, connecting with other innovators, attending conferences like this, or going to big conferences like ISTE in a week and a half. Following other leaders, and others are still warily observing. Like, is this right for me? Right? What do I need to actually start dipping my toe into this? As an educator, I'll still see this and be like, well, but really, what does that look like? So, I see a camera taking a picture. Next slide.
Thank you.
This is what it looks like, okay? There are a lot of folks that are just wanting to get introduced to it, waiting in line, getting a sense of what this looks like, right? And then you've got those folks that want to start using it, but they need help. That's what that chasm is, right? Do I have the tools? Do I have the professional development I need? Do we have the infrastructure in our schools to do this? There are many things I need to do this right, using technology in my classroom. And then we have those folks that are just off to the races, that are climbing mountains and doing incredible things that for the warily observer look so intimidating, right? But there's one constant in this graphic, and this is kind of one of the base roles we play, and that is there is a foundation that they are all building upon. if you are going to innovate your classrooms or use technology in meaningful ways, you need to make sure you even have a culture in your classroom that allows for you to. Respectful culture, responsibility. Kids understand that they can self-regulate and support each other, right? Part of that means, how do we build that foundation? It's that idea of recognizing that what we do in person isn't too far from what we should expect online. So we use something called the rings of responsibility, recognizing that anytime you post something, you have a responsibility to yourself, you also have a responsibility to your friends and family, and you also have responsibility to the entire community at large. A lot of kids don't recognize that when they post something, it could potentially take down a whole school. When a kid goes onto the after-school app and puts in a bomb threat because they don't want to take the test, that affects an entire community, that affects law enforcement. They're not thinking that far ahead, right? But to make it common practice, where we all stop to really kind of take a fraction of a second just to think these things out, you don't lose much in the day, but when you don't take that time, you potentially lose hours, if not days of instruction, having to deal with the drama, right? So what are the topics that we look at when we talk about digital citizenship? So we have a definition. We say that digital citizens know how to harness the power of technology safely, respectfully, and responsibly. This means thinking about avoiding risky situations, communicating with each other appropriately, all the way down to how to find the right websites that actually have credible information, understanding how to do targeted word search, providing attribution to where you're borrowing. Just because I find a picture online doesn't mean that I'm not going to put where I got it from. Just because it's online doesn't mean it's free, right? And when you think about how am I going to then do this, yeah, Common Sense has got a lot of stuff. We've got full curriculum on it. It's all research-based, which is great. But what does that really mean to you as an educator? Okay? We've got this great scope and sequence that says, hey, we can address all of these things in your classroom. It's all broken down developmentally for kids. That's awesome. But still, what does that mean for me in social studies or in math or in English, right? Because the reality is, we're not all going to provide direct instruction on digital citizenship. Maybe we feel like we don't have the time. Or maybe we feel like that's not my job, that's someone else's job, right? The reality is, these kids are in all of our classrooms. It's kind of all of our jobs. But it's the way in which you do it that we need to think about, okay? So am I reinforcing digital citizenship in my classroom, or am I providing the direct instruction? Your districts, your schools should hopefully help inform who's doing what. But what I wanted to do, especially right now, in this next exercise, is get you to think about how you can take something like digital citizenship and place it into somewhere like math or history, right? Just so that you can kind of get a sense of how easy is it to not add on one more thing. Digital citizenship shouldn't be an add-on to what you're doing. It should be meant to enhance your instruction. It should be meant to allow you to do your instruction more effectively, right? And actually get more actual data and information from it. So there's another exercise called media use. And so what I want you to do, this is a time for you to just kind of close your eyes. I literally close your eyes. Close your eyes. I'm not going to scare anyone. I'm not going to jump out of nowhere and try to scare you, okay? But close your eyes and follow my instruction. What I want you to do is think about your typical day. Don't think about today because it might be a little out of the norm, but think about your typical day, Monday through Friday, okay? So you're sleeping. Now picture yourself waking up. And when you're waking up, what are you doing? Are you waking up to an alarm clock from your phone, from a radio, right? Do you just wake up because your internal clock is synced like that? Do you got a kid jumping on top of you like I do every morning? Okay. Now after you wake up, your morning routine. You're going to the restroom, you're doing whatever you need to do there, brush your teeth. Are you listening to music? Are you listening to NPR? Are you listening to anything? Are you watching TV as you're getting ready? Okay? You're getting breakfast ready. You're telling your kids to get off their devices, but yet you're looking at yours. I'm talking about myself right now. This is my reflection. And then you get in the car. You drive to school. Are you listening to music? Again, you're listening to a podcast. And then you get to the classroom. When you're in classroom, are you taking your class? Are you using technology in your class? Are you potentially maybe doing research to prepare for your class or your job that day? So think about that whole school day. And then we go after school, that last bell rings. Hopefully, you're headed home. A lot of you probably staying back and doing other things. But once you do get home, or as you're driving home, are you again listening to the radio? texting while driving, which you should not be doing. Then you get home, you're making dinner for yourself or for your family. Is media present in that household? And then you get ready to go to sleep. Are you texting? Are you checking your text messages one more time? Are you checking your Twitter feed one more time? Are you on Facebook one more time? Are you posting that you're getting ready to sleep on Facebook that time? And then you wake up to another kid jumping on top of you. Okay, open up your eyes. All right. So raise of hands. How many of you feel like you are just now realizing that you're actually exposed to more media in your day than you originally thought? Any hands there? Some folks kind of reluctant. How many of you feel like, whew, I actually am not using as much as I thought I did? Any hands there? How many of you could actually say, I use X amount of hours to do this, I use X amount of hours to do this, I use X amount of hours to do this? How many of you guys have that scripted in your lives anywhere? You just kind of go about life, right? You take this exercise, you then give kids a document that asks them, document your day. Break it down. What are you doing on your phone in one day? How much time are you spending doing homework? How much time are you spending listening to music? And you get all that data from a single student. And then you have them bring it into class. And you have groups compile that data. And from that data, you are now adjusting your word problems to include this data instead. You're making it real about your kids, right? Not only are your kids going to be like, actually, I had no idea I'm spending much more time doing this than playing video games. I thought I just played video games all day. I'm actually spending more time doing this. You will be amazed at that simple lesson can be used across so many different content areas. And in math, you're like, okay, now graph this. Create a pie chart, right? Let's see how you compare to this other classroom or to this other grade level. Let's see how you compare to national standards, right? I just said 9 hours a day kids are using media and technology. Have your kids debunk that theory. Or maybe they confirm it or say, you know what, we blew that number out of the water. They'll have a lot of pride in that, right? But you're taking actual data and information around kids' use, getting more insight into how they see this in their lives, and now applying it into the learning outcomes of your classroom. Okay? Digital citizenship doesn't have to be one more thing. It can be the topic, the data, the information you use to achieve that objective in the classroom. Okay? Another thing, digital footprints. Very important. This is one of our most heavily used topic areas, this idea of how do we get kids to really think about their privacy and their digital footprints, their sharing and oversharing, or building more positive digital footprint. I mentioned earlier what happened in Stanford, and this is the same thing that even happened down the street at Albany, right? Kids were posting things on Instagram that, again, were hurtful, and it's led them to a lot of issues. Or even in San Jose, unfortunately, and in Colorado, there were these sexting groups that were happening that blew up, right? Digital footprints play a huge role. But knowing how we talk about these types of issues, because our kids are at different grade levels, that can be a challenge. So this is just kind of give you an example of how you take something important like making sure that students are learning how they can shape their own digital footprints, but doing so in an appropriate way. So we're thinking in K2, we have something called Follow the Digital Trail, which just essentially shows Ella the elephant and Mizzle the mouse's footprints. And what you do here is you take these, and you cut these out and you hide them across your classroom, and you say, all right, kids, we're going to simulate a Google search or a Yahoo search. Oh, Yahoo's not there anymore. A Bing search, whatever you use, Chrome search. Right? We're going to do a search, and I want you to find all of these tiles in the classroom. Kids run around the classroom searching for information. It's the same thing they do when they go online. They bring it together into a group, and you start engaging them in questions about, yeah, so what do we know? Like, there's actually a backstory here. It's like someone wants to take over the animal kingdom. How do we know who to target? Right? It's in more K2 speak, obviously. But then kids will very readily start to recognize, oh, well, we know exactly where Ella lives, but Mizzle is just a picture of a house. So what does that mean for you? Like, what is appropriate to share? This idea of understanding that your digital footprint could potentially be sharing or oversharing information, okay? We go to middle school, and then we flip it around, and we make it more around these talent-based competitions. You know, they got World of Dance now. They have the singing competitions. American Idol apparently is coming back. So, you know, why not have another one? $1 trillion footprint. Your kids now in groups have to decide who the host is going to be and who they're going to hire, and they go through and try to decide between Linda or Jason based on their social profiles, because based on the application, they both look great. And then it's about really looking critically at the information they have about them and making a decision. And then in high school, which this could have been great for those students at Harvard, is to look at not just their applications, but then to look at their social profiles and really getting a sense of who do I want to take in, because I've got one spot left, right? And the nice part about this, it's not about the red cups. It's not about the half-naked selfies. It's about knowing that someone might have done more with ASB or student body presidency, the other one might have done more sports, and yet we still make decisions based on what we assume about what we find about individuals. And then you turn it back to them, the individuals, the students, and they start thinking, man, I should go back and start taking some of these things down. When I do these lessons for teachers directly, part of like a whole day PD type thing, the very first thing that they do after we do the particular assignment is they go onto their own platforms and they start deleting things. It's amazing how much we as educators forget about our own digital footprints. And then it's about what do I do from there, right? You need to provide some kind of action. So you can do it as simple as just getting old magazines and creating a footprint. A lot of educators will take this footprint, put it around the classroom and say, hey all, these are the expectations in the classroom. Let's all support each other to build the footprint we want everyone to know about us, because we're going to use this in our online portfolios, et cetera, right? You can do that in any classroom. One of my favorite ways that I've seen this lesson supported is that it was taught in English language arts, and then those same students went to their social studies class, and they said, all right, I know we did digital citizenship in English. Today we're going to take that lesson and apply it into doing some research around Abraham Lincoln. You guys are going to be doing a Facebook, like you can go on myfakewall.com, and I want you to create Abraham Lincoln's feed, but give me the dark side of Abraham Lincoln. Do the research, make some, inferences. How would he talk directly to our, at this time, current president, Barack Obama? Like, what would that interaction look like? You guys will do the positive side. What would that look like? How would that differ? Do the research, spend some time as a group. We're going to then present this next week. You've essentially met many of the things you were going to do in your classroom anyway. But you've gotten kids to start looking at topics that were relevant, that were important to them, and that were affecting them now, right? And if you're still not sure what to do with that, you can go on to our Lessons in Action video, and you can watch some of this, and you can actually see what teachers are doing with it, okay? The next part, and I'm going to talk more about this when we, in the following session, is around engaging families. One of the reasons that I get many phone calls from districts is not necessarily, it is, we have things that we need to address in our classrooms. Oftentimes it's not about prevention, oftentimes it's about reaction, and a lot of that reaction is parents are freaking out. Parents don't know what to do. Parents have an issue. We're bringing in one-to-one. Parents say that there's already too much access to technology, and now we're providing it in our classrooms, right? There's a communication gap. So engaging families as stakeholders, as opportunities to really kind of lead these opportunities forward, that's huge. So that's a lot of what I'm going to focus on later. But you should be thinking about how you engage your families as much as you think about how do I engage my students. Okay? Because it is our roles to do that, and it is also parents' roles to reinforce that at home. Okay? Oftentimes they'll say, oh, that's the role of the teacher. We'll say, oh, this should have started at home. Right? The reality is, these should be addressed because we all play a role in the lives of our kids, especially now with meeting technology. But then, how do you get up to this? So, professional development and recognition are some of the things where, we recognize it can be hard to address these things in your classroom sometimes. So, how do you get the training? Where do you find all this information? There's a lot of stuff on our site, but there's a lot of opportunity just in this room. Okay? As you learn more or integrate some of these issues into your classroom, please share it out. Other keynotes that I've done talking about teaching practice and the way that teaching practice has changed, especially around digital citizenship, this idea that educators should not just be comfortable in their classroom, taking in information and applying it in their classroom. Educators now need to be able to go out of their four walls. They need to be able to share out with educators. Could be in social platforms, could be just in meetups, right? We can't innovate if we don't learn from others. And so that's a comfort zone that we as educators should get comfortable with. It's easy to share out personal stuff, but teaching practice, sometimes it's a little harder to do. Okay, so I encourage you all to do that. There's many other ways you can do that on our platform, but I'm not here to talk about that stuff. And really success is going to be dependent on this whole community approach. So this idea of being able to address parents, get your own training for educators, so the more confident you feel addressing these issues, the better you're going to be at supporting your kids, right? And then being able to actually get parents on board. So I'm going to open up some questions, and then I'm going to go to our site to kind of show you where all this lives, right? Again, you can go to any site. You can find any information. If you're addressing digital citizenship, I am very happy about that, right? Our site's just another place you can go to find these tools. I can obviously talk a lot about the way that we've done the research and everything, but I want to make sure it's just about the concept and the application first before we go deep dive into that. Any general questions before I show you where you can find all this information? All right. So the first thing is let you know where to find me, and then I'm going to go into the site. So where you can find me is you can send things to schools@commonsense.org and just reference me, and it'll come to me. So feel free. My social platforms are all right there as well, right? I'm going to now go to the site. Are we good with this? All right. So, the Common Sense website. There's a lot there, and it's great because it's robust. It's challenging because there's so much. So once you get there, let's see if I can get there. Okay, it's coming up. There are 3 main tabs I mentioned earlier: the Rate, Educate, and Advocate. For parents and those ratings, you can find the information here. Again, this is rating-specific content, and then there are also some kind of parent concerns around some of the issues around digital citizenship here as well. Direct for parents. Everything you need for education will be right here under For Education. All of our digital citizenship content is under the scope and sequence. Okay? Once you click on scope and sequence under digital citizenship, it will take you to all the lessons broken down by grade band. So you can click on the grade band you're interested in, say 3rd through 5th grade. You'll see that there are 3 units within 3rd through 5th grade. Essentially, if you wanted to roll this out, you can do Unit 1 in 3rd grade, Unit 2 in 4th grade, Unit 3 in 5th grade. It's up to you. Or you can just go topically and say, you know what, October's anti-bullying month. Let's just focus on the cyberbullying lessons, click on that topic, and those will elevate to the top. Okay? Now, the elements of a lesson, very easy. If you're an educator and you're used to lesson plans, we've written them that way. So you'll find that all of the alignments are here. So Common Core alignments, NETS, ISTE standards alignments. If those things mean anything to you, they're there. And then you can view them. Some of them have more than English and Spanish, but for the most part, the lessons are in English and Spanish. And you just click onto a lesson, and it'll bring it up for you. Main topics you will find, it'll start with a guiding question, right? So what is this? What is the objective? What is the overview? Here's the essential question. What will you need to teach this? Everything on your right nav will kind of line those things out for you. And then literally it'll say start with this, draw this, ask this. Here are the possible responses. Here's how long it might take. Take the time to do each activity or break them up throughout the week. And then it goes to the closing and the wrap-up, and then all of the student materials are at the end. Okay? So there's plenty for you to pull from. It's just about how do you apply it into your classroom. And again, it's not about taking each lesson and having to do each lesson in your classroom. It's about applying the activity, or at least the ideas, into your practice. All right. Other things that I want you to get comfortable, that I want you to start thinking about is if you want additional resources on, all right, we learned a little bit from Merve this morning, but I want to dive deeper for myself. Just click on professional development. There's a lot of free tools on how to teach digital citizenship or how to use our content right on that professional development tab. Okay? And then lastly, for anyone that is interested in wanting to understand what is my role as an educator for my students' information and their privacy, if I'm an educator in the classroom, or if, as a district person, I need to vet apps and websites and tools for my schools, we've got a ton of resources on how to actually do that, and what are the ideas around compliance and privacy that I should be thinking about. That's all available right on the privacy tab. All right, so my last thoughts. So again, my last thoughts are, digital citizenship shouldn't just be this thing that we address, right? It shouldn't be something we add in. It should literally be as ubiquitous as the devices in the lives of our kids. If they have access to all this technology, we should be applying digital citizenship in the way that we talk about the way that they use this technology, okay? So some of us, after seeing this, and when we started off, some of us were like, oh my gosh, I've got all these things to be concerned about. Others, hopefully you're figuring, there are some major learning opportunities here. What I want you to do for your group, last activity, is go to a website called Giphy. Anyone ever hear of that site? G-I-P-H-Y, if you can get there. I'm not sure if you can all get there. Hopefully the filters will let you get there. This is meant for your group anyway. I want you to think about how you feel right now after kind of learning about this stuff. Think about the one word. Then when you go to giphy.com, G-I-P-H-Y.com, type in that word and it'll pull up a bunch of GIFs. So you know those animated images that can be really funny sometimes? So as you think about if you feel overwhelmed, type in overwhelmed. If you feel excited, type in excited. Whatever you're feeling, go to giphy.com, type that in. It'll pull up all these different images. I want you to choose one and share that with your table. I think it's a great practice for everyone to know, where are you? How do you feel? And if you feel like, you know what, you're excited about this, I'm terrified, we should connect, right? So take that time, go onto the site, feel free to post it if you feel like it's appropriate. There might not be appropriate GIFs, you can share it with each other, but don't post it, okay? But take the time to share with your table, how are you feeling right now?
But you can find people doing all kinds of crazy things in there. Might start out okay, but then it goes south.
Yeah, I'd like to know what that actually says.
Right. I can't tell language it is.
It looks like something we were talking about yesterday. I'll remember that. Oh, Andre the Giant. Where's he going?
Easily tweet it. Oh, it does.
Yep.
So, whoa.
Tweet.
Not that I'm going to.
Can I call myself out on one thing? I had a presenter fail that I just realized. I talked about this great animation that kids made and I didn't show it to you. Presenter fail on my end, so I'm going to show it to you now. This is on the simile, the digital life simile that we were talking about earlier. I'm going to show you this and then I'm going to show you my GIF for the day. But so this is the example of what my media life is like. All right, so that was my presenter fail. I will own that as an education practice. If you mess something up, own it. And just be like, all right, I messed something up. Let me come back to it, and it's completely okay. All right, so I hope at this point you guys have found kind of a GIF from Giphy that you guys are sharing with each other. Again, I'm not gonna ask anyone to share it up here. I will ask you, however, if you want to share it on the Twitter feed. Make sure you're using hashtag NHUSDPS to share it on there so we can see and learn from each other. And I'm going to turn off my mic, but I'm going to pull up my GIF once it pulls up. But thank you all for your time, your attention. You've got like 15-ish minutes before your next session. I don't think I'm leaving here. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
I'm here. So if you want to hang out, we're going to go do parent stuff. Otherwise, have a great rest of your sessions.